Andy Johnson, Minnesota State University. We're looking at strategies to help students develop their ability to comprehend text, to create meaning with text. So some basics. First of all, comprehension is creating meaning with print. That's the same definition we use for reading. Reading's not sounding out words, it's creating meaning with print. If we are not creating meaning, we are not reading. Comprehension is an active process, meaning you have to do something, you have to be engaged. You can't simply sit back and be comprehended at. So you have to be cognitively engaged. Your brain has to be active some way. And a third thing is background knowledge is an important part of comprehension. When we are first teaching comprehension skills and strategies, we want to use texts and books that are about things students know about. And fourth, as I've already indicated, comprehension involves thinking, cognition, thinking processes, cognitive processes. Therefore, to improve comprehension, we improve thinking. We teach a cognitive process to develop the skill. Teach the process to develop the skill. And these are all cognitive processes that can be broken down and taught. We teach the process to develop the skill. The skill is something we do automatically, and I'll look at that a little bit more later. But these are all different cognitive processes, and we are going to look at just a few today. But the goal in teaching these processes is automaticity, meaning that you do it without thinking. As students are reading, we do not want them to compare and think about, I'm comparing something, or I'm answering a question, or I'm putting things in order. We want students to do this automatically without thinking about it. And the next thing is efficient readers, effective readers approach narrative text stories differently than expository text. You do not read a Harry Potter book the same way as you read a textbook about comprehension. Narrative text, the purpose is to read and enjoy. So we look for an aesthetic approach and aesthetic response. A textbook, the purpose is to read and understand. So we look for an efferent approach and an efferent response. So effective readers approach them differently. In the same way, effective teachers design different types of activities for narrative and expository text. And again, keep in mind the purpose of reading each. If the purpose is to read and enjoy, of course you would not approach it the same way as you approach a textbook. I certainly don't. All right, so I'm going to show you some activities today that can be used with both, but in general, they are different types of activities. And the big point is comprehension worksheets do almost nothing to improve students' ability to comprehend. They should really be called remembering worksheets or finding details in the text worksheets. Why do we continue to use them? There are better ways. So some ideas for designing activities and strategies. Now, these should be done pre, during, and post-reading activities, and I'll differentiate when there are differences here. But the goal is for students to read with purposeful intent. You know, one of the bad things about comprehension worksheets is they're only post-reading activities. Read the text and answer the questions. That does absolutely nothing. When you do these activities, it's good to do them in a large group many times, small group, and then individually. I like using pairs and small groups because the conversation that ensues enhances learning. Social activities, social learning enhances learning. And we use graphic organizers, and a graphic organizer is any sort of visual display to organize the content, ideas, concepts, etc. And you'll see an example of this. Now I'm going to show you four different comprehension activities: adopt and adapt. Keep it simple, keep it simple. The first one is support a statement or identifying supporting details as a pre-reading activity. You introduce a declarative statement related to some aspect of the text. Tigers live in the jungle. That's a declarative statement, a yes or no. All right. You provide the graphic organizer up front. And when teaching this, I usually like to do 2 or 3 paragraphs if I'm working with middle school students, and have it on the board or some visual display. Then we read the paragraphs, and I ask students to stop and raise their hand when they find a supporting detail, and we list it. So you give them the statement. The teacher provides the statement. Always the teacher. Students do not look for statements. The teacher provides the statement. But then students look for supporting details as they read. You're going to hear this phrase, students read with purposeful intent. Boys and girls, we are going to read the story. When you find an idea to support our statement, let's go ahead and list it on your graphic organizer. All right, not that complicated. This can be put in a learning log. This gives me a much better sense of how this student is processing the text than a stinking comprehension worksheet. Pre-post comprehension, confirmations. And again, this takes a little think rating up front by the teacher, but you create a pre-post confirmation chart up front. You have, anywhere from 4 to 6, maybe more, depending, statements related to the text, and at least one of them should not be true. As a pre-reading activity, the class goes through each of the statements, and this also serves to get students ready to read the text. All right, they read through the statements. They are asked to mark with the pencil which ones they think are true, yes or no. All right, as they read, they are asked to confirm yes or no and the page number. So each of these will be confirmed in the text. Not that complicated, but it takes a little thinking up front. Pre-post confirmations. So they read to confirm. They're reading with purposeful intent. Each one of these should be confirmed yes or no, and then they put the page number. This keeps them attached to the text by including the page number. Cause effect. This takes a little thinking as well. The teacher designs the cause effect chart up front and displays it. You'll have some causes for which there's an effect in the text and some effects for which there is a cause in the text. You display this as a pre-reading activity, and students are told they must look for the effect of the cause and the page number. Again, they are reading with purposeful intent. Cause effect. Show the chart up front. Ask students to find either the cause or the effect. And this is good. Of course, this can be done in pairs and small groups as well initially. But cause effect is one of the Common Core state standards. And this is a simple way to demonstrate mastery of that, finding cause and effect. Compare and contrast, that's another Common Core state standards, as if that means anything. The teacher finds 2 things to compare up front. At least one of them should be an entity found in the text, but oftentimes it's 2 things found within the text. Now, if I'm teaching a new concept, I like to compare the new to the known. If I'm reading a book about Harry Potter, and we just read a story describing Luke Skywalker, well, then I ask them to make these comparisons. So as a pre-reading activity, again, they are given the comparison chart, and they are given the 2 things to compare. This is like a Venn diagram, except it's a little bit easier to read and to do. They're reading with purposeful intent. They list the similarities as they are encountered and the differences as they are encountered. And again, they are reading with purposeful intent. Look at the entities, identify the differences, identify the similarities. Some general ideas then to leave you with. You want to do these in large group many times with middle school and high school. You don't need to do it as many times in large group, but elementary we would do it in large group many times. In pairs and small groups, and then individually. And use the graphic organizer to document the skill. All right. Students do not learn, do not master this cognitive process in a single encounter or in a couple encounters. You need to do it many times. Our goal is automaticity, so they do it without thinking. The goal is not to master the graphic organizer. No one cares if they can do a comparison chart. No one really cares if they can do a cause-effect graph or a confirming statement. They really don't care. But they do care. It's the cognitive process we are concerned with. The goal is for the graphic organizer to become obsolete, so they don't have to think about comparing or supporting statements or inferring or whatever there is. The goal is automaticity, is to not have to use a graphic organizer. Don't need no stinking comprehension worksheets. We use graphic organizers both to teach the process, to develop the process, and then to monitor or document students' progress.